Call to meeting the March 8th, 2022 Budget and Personnel Committee meeting. There is no public comment. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And first item on the agenda is review the proposed budget for harbor, water, and EMS. We'll turn that over to you, Mike. I'm assuming you're going to handle these all three in one fell swoop.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's do EMS first. That's pretty straightforward, and it is the first spreadsheet on the in order here. Basically, the EMS budget this year is slightly higher, about $70,000 or so higher than it was last year, and that's purely due to the fact that we've added a supervisor, which was not in the budget last year, and that takes about all of that. Other than that, we're right down the line with EMS. As you know, Brian does an excellent job of scheduling. He's got an excellent program using a lot of part-time labor that really helps us budget-wise. And all accounts, EMS is running very well. So people on the island seem pleased with the additional shifts and the availability. So I do think that this budget item is well received. Any questions on the EMS budget for 2023 or proposed EMS budget for 2023?
Any questions from y'all? No, everybody good? Moving on.
All right. Next one in line will be the harbor expense. Now, there are a few different things here. The highlights, of course, everyone knows what fuel is doing right now. We really have busted our budget at the harbor in both expense and revenue for fuel this year, gone well over our estimates. And with the increase in fuel, the drastic increase in fuel we're having, we're trying to walk a tightrope here as to whether we will have, we expect some increase just from the increased price, but we also expect some depressed activity because of the higher fuel prices. So we're kind of walking a tightrope. You do see an extra, you do see a bit of an increase there in fuel, expense over this year. If you look at the budget last year, we had budgeted $250,000 in fuel expense. Currently, as of the end of January, we were already at $322,000 in fuel expense, which indicates much greater sales than we expected. And you'll see I bumped that current number slightly to $360 for FY23 because, quite honestly, a lot of unknowns right now in fuel. Like I said, we know we're going to have higher prices. We pretty much can rely on the higher prices and higher costs, but we are not quite sure what that'll do to demand. Vernon and I have discussed it. Vernon's of the opinion that if you've got a $500,000 boat, you don't care what fuel costs. And that the smaller boats, when you get the sum total of what they purchase, it doesn't add up to that significant a difference. So we've got a modest increase here, and again, we're trying to figure out exactly what'll go on here. But we do have a modest increase over what we've seen through January of FY22. Next highlight for harbor, we continue to budget for long-term replacement. This year we did, 300 linear feet of bulkhead?
320 feet.
320 feet linear feet of bulkhead reinforcement where we put some poles down and a bottom whaler. We've got another $54,000 budgeted for that same project in FY23, and there's 150 feet left, Vernon?
Yes, sir.
Of bulkhead that needs reinforced, so we want to finish that up and move on to some other improvements there. One of the little things we'd like to do this year is build a fish weighing station for these fishing tournaments. Get something down there going for that. That's a minor cost, but we certainly ought to be able to handle it. Again, we've got, I think it's $200,000 in there for replacement of the last wooden finger pier that we hope to obtain a grant for from VPA. That's in there as well. Of course, that's also 75% of that total cost would be borne by VPA, and we would bear the other 25%. So, great deal. And for lack of a better place, this may not be the place for it, but I did include the construction of the new Memorial Park boat ramp, which of course right now is in engineering. We're estimating that total cost of that ramp at $310,000. Currently, and that is the significant increase you see in the harbor budget over last year's budget. Currently, we have $229,000 in change in the boat ramp reserve account, which I intend to pull from that reserve account and put in our revenues under the harbor this year to help offset that $310,000 in cost. The other $80,000 will have to be made up out of the regular budget. Or we could pull that from a different reserve account, and I haven't made that decision yet, but I will.
Then we talk about pulling it from the harbor account and then putting the boat ramp money in that until we get it back in there.
We could also do that from other harbor reserves. We do have other harbor reserves that we could do that from, and just double our efforts to replace them should we have a good year.
We're not looking to have that replaced this year, right?
We are looking at, from what the Harbor Committee instructed us to do, we are proceeding with it just as quickly as we can, and getting the engineering work done. The next thing, the engineer will be presenting us with the concept and the conceptual plan so that we can go ahead and release those for construction drawings, and once they're available, we will go ahead and bid it and go ahead and issue a project for construction. The Harbor Committee was of the opinion we'll go ahead and get it done, even though we're going to be working on it through the
It'd be nice to
summer.
get it done. I guess what I'm saying is that we're still waiting on the engineering to be done. Here it is for March.
Yes.
Yeah, the ramp's useless anyway.
Yeah, that's what we figured, is you can't really use the ramp, so even if we're not doing it in the summer.
Get it done, even if it's.
I would love to get it done. I just didn't think it was possible to get it done with the,
It's probably not. We're going to be into the summer with construction by the time everything's done. And the suggestion in the Harbor Committee was, I think, to maybe, do we want to postpone this till fall? And the answer was, no, let's go ahead and knock it out. So
They'll
We're-
probably be under construction during Ponies Penny.
Don't say that.
the big concern there, of course, is with all the activity down there and construction happening too, you have to have a good separation and good barriers to keep people from getting hurt. So we'll definitely make that a part of the project's specifications. And are there any questions on harbor expense?
What's this gas situation like to us?
I don't think it's gonna bother the harbor.
Don't think so?
Cause like, you got boats, $600,000-700,000, you ain't worrying about how much. And I just use Chris and Mike, even me for example, we go out on a Saturday, it's gonna cost us $50 instead of $30. Are you stopping out one go? You're just one go. That's, I don't know, people, even the first year of the pandemic, I mean, that didn't slow them
No, that's true.
up.
That was one activity that you could actually do during the pandemic, get outside.
Actually, I heard a theory today that we're probably gonna be busier because they can drive here,
Right.
you know, and out on a tank of gas and,
Yeah, that's a well-known fact that we're a tank of gas away from major
Well,
metropolitan
places, yeah.
areas.
Do we bid out our fuel now that we're getting some volume going?
so, I can't hear you.
Bid the fuel.
Do we bid the fuel now that we're getting volume going? We haven't done that.
No,
That might be something we need to
Pep
look
Up,
into.
Pep Up takes,
That is something we can do, and there used to be several vendors. Pep Up seems to have bought a few of them out, and there's not nearly as much competition as there was, but we can certainly look into doing
the
that.
thing about Pep Up though, I mean, in the summertime, sometimes I have them there 5 or 6 days in a row, right on through the weekend. And I call them and they're there and they don't charge us no, service charge or nothing. I mean, I got their numbers on speed dial and I need fuel, they're there.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying if you bid it, you want to make that
It's
24
hard.
hour,
Yeah.
24/7 service.
That would have to be part of the
That'd be
contract.
staying part of the contract. I'm just saying, as you
And we
increase your
use them back
volume.
here too.
Yeah, they have all our fuel. They service the Public Works, which is used by the fire department and EMS and police department and Public Works and also the harbor. And of course, that's all tracked separately.
But I don't know when you're gonna see it go down. It's gonna be a while.
All right, any other questions on the hauler? No? Water?
And the water,
Water.
single highlight for water for, this is the, well, we've included in water this year is the Cropper Street water line replacement, which did not get funded through ARPA, so that's in our regular budget. That's $127,000 on Cropper Street to replace the water line and the drainage line. Replacement of the high-rise lift pumps. Those are the pumps that pump to the high-rise tank from the ground. They're very important, of course. And replacement of the filter media at the water plant on Willow Street. That also has not been done in many, many years, and needs to happen. So that's also been budgeted for $40,000. Other than that, the one large change in the water budget is this is an off year. We will not be contributing. In FY22, the current fiscal year, we have budgeted $150,000 from the water account to go to our water reserves. That is not done every year, so FY23 will be an off year where we will not budget that expense to go to our water reserves. The usual $100,000 from the water account going to the general fund is still there. That's done every single year, and that's what is that called? It's called water. Let me get back down there. Yes, reimbursement to Fund 10, as you'll see that on that line. That's $100,000. That is in there every year, and that's basically money we take out of the water account and put in the general fund. But any questions on the water? Other than that, you'll see that there's some modest increases here or there for just cost of living increases and general increases. We have made an attempt, you'll look up the gas and diesel line, we have made an attempt to increase that proportionally to what we think, fuel's going up. Whether that's enough or not, who knows? But we're making an attempt to put more than the average increase in fuel purchases this year.
Any questions on the water?
No, what, refresh my memory, I don't remember ARPA shooting down Cropper Street.
I thought we paid for the line, but not the other stuff.
I'm sorry?
I thought ARPA did the water
We
line.
did the water line.
It qualifies, but it's my recollection that we're going to save that. We're going to try to do that out of the regular budget and save that save the ARPA funds for other projects. I'll go back and review
Might want to
it.
read it. I thought we said we'd do the line, but not the other stuff.
Right, because the other stuff was coming
Okay.
from UDOT.
I'll take another look at that.
Okay. Yeah, because the line was like 100 and what's the line, 100?
127,000.
127.
And it qualifies and it's all that.
Yeah,
It
but
certainly
we weren't- The whole
qualifies.
project was 270 something?
Yes.
Right, I
Yes.
think we said we were going to, we can check into that. I think we said we'd
Yeah,
do the
'cause-
line out of ARPA, but not the other stuff.
Okay. I will check on that.
All right, going on to consideration of the new Shinnecock Police Department wage scale, memo R.
And Mr. Chairman, this is, if you remember, we made in order to preserve our experienced personnel in the police department, we made some individual increases back in the fall of a few officers. At that time, when we increased those for salaries, we did not go back through and make a similar adjustment to the police department's wage scale. So this is an attempt to do just that, is to bring the wage scale up to snuff on the raises that we have given so far. You'll see the existing wage scale there, and that's the one that was approved, I believe, in 2018, along with several others in the town. And the modified scale, which I changed this morning because I found a mistake, so it's different than the one you might have seen on the agenda yesterday. And you will see that these positions for police officer first class corporal, they were changed to reflect the increases that we gave those 4 officers back in the fall. So now that anybody that comes in will look at this wage scale and come in at a similar number. Because we bumped the pay for 3 different classes of officers in the fall, I also increased the upper echelon of this scale a similar amount, so that the scale did not represent a compressed scale where the higher ranks are compressed into the lower ranks. We still want them to stay separated appropriately. So now the difference here, a grade 7 police officer, that is a police officer that we've hired off the street that does not have training, has not been through the academy yet. So that number is what we'll pay that person as they're being trained. Once they graduate from the academy, they become a police officer first class, and I'm going on what I believe Robbie has told me here. At which time they're trained, we bump them a little bit to that number. And if you remember back in the fall when we discussed this, those numbers, we had the lowest of all the adjacent departments as far as an officer starting out untrained and trained. And in order to attract people and get the lower officers to stay here and not run off and work for someone else, the budget personnel thought it was prudent to increase those beginning salaries. Again, all this adjustment in the scale does is reflect what you've already done, and the upper grades were increased to keep proper separation from the lower grades that we've already increased. So all I'm here to do is ask you to approve the new scale.
Barring any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good to go. And then we move on to, if you remember at the last committee meeting, we had instructed Mike to come back to us with the cost of adding the 2 new police officers to give the, I believe, 2 on 24/7 type thing. So Mike, I'll turn that over to you.
Yes, sir, and this represents, if you remember, Chief Fisher wanted to hire 1 experienced officer and 1 brand new officer, and that would be your police officer that's untrained. You'll see the 2 salaries there, which are directly reflected from what the scale you just approved. I did a year 1 cost analysis and a year 2, because year 1 will contain a significant number for training from the academy for the new officer, and it'll also contain money to equip both officers. It cost about $5,000 each to equip these officers. So you'll see the initial year cost is about almost $146,000. That because the training ends and the equipment is already purchased, year 2 that number goes down to $126,759. So those are the numbers that you asked me to come up with the exact costs. One of those, I believe, it was discussed at the last meeting. One of those was requested to be funded out of public safety money. That would go before, I assume, the Public Safety Committee to be approved, and the other one would just have to come out of regular budget.
So any discussion on that within the committee here? We had talked about, we thought this was a good direction to move forward in. I'm assuming you're looking for a vote from us to proceed in this direction, and you can work on the allocations.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. So I open up for discussion.
I think we need it. I mean, it's, you just, having 1 on is not a good situation. We gotta have backup. I'm just lucky that we haven't had an issue yet. I'll make a motion that we proceed.
I second that with the same sentiment that the mayor has been talking about this for quite a while, that 1 covering just does not cover it. If you've got an incident, ocean breeze, and the officer's up neck, you just can't be done. So I second that motion.
All right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So now, Mike, it's back in your court for finding the money.
And just to clear that up, that the motion is to approve funding
Approve the.
for these
yeah,
two positions?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the motion, I
Well-
guess, budget person, the motion is to add the two positions.
Add the two positions.
And recommend that to full council?
You're gonna have to find out where the funding comes from.
Yep.
You talked about splitting off stuff, public safety, you have to take that back to public safety. See if that's the way you wanna proceed. But we're recommending the additional 2 police officers.
There's a public safety committee meeting tomorrow night.
And then, what do we have? Closed meeting, how about comments? We'll do comments, that's not on here.
All good.
No comments. And, certification of closed, we don't need a closed meeting though, right, Mike?
No, sir, that was in case the committee had questions about particular individuals. We could do that in closed session, but if you have no questions about particular individuals, then that's not necessary.
Denise, all good? Good to go, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor for adjournment?
Aye.
I do.
Aye. Out of here.